Yeah, let's talk quickly about what happened in Jordan. When was it? I'm actually
Sunday?
right.
I don't know any days either, but the American base Tower 22 on the Jordanian, Syrian, Iraq border was hit by
it was hit by a drone, and 3 U.S. Soldiers were killed, and some 24 were injured. And Tamara, can you just put up the story I sent you, which shows the photos and names of the soldiers? And it's just very striking to me that all 3 of these soldiers are Black. And so, you know, once again, we see a pattern repeating of people in the United States. We know, I don't know much about these individuals personally, so I don't want to generalize, but we do know that it is a pattern. I certainly see it in Chicago, that military recruitment targets minority communities, Black, Latino, and other communities, where Americans can only get, you know, instead of the kind of social rights they should have as rights, college education and various other benefits, you can only get those through you know, so-called GI Bill benefits, where you have to join the army. So this is a route for many people to get those benefits, and it's historically been true that the people most marginalized within the United States end up as the cannon fodder of empire. And I just wanted to acknowledge that these young people should not have been on a border outpost of Jordan, and just across the border from Syria, where the United States maintains an illegal occupation. It's a topic for another day, but I wonder why Syria doesn't go to the International Court of Justice and take the United States to the International Court of Justice over its illegal occupation of Syria. But this attack, this drone attack, we know hit a border outpost called Tower 22, which is inside the inside Jordanian territory. And I think we can actually look at the Google map of this location. And so you see there's Jordan in the middle of the map, and that red point up in the northeast corner of Jordan shows where the drone attack took place at a place called Rukban. And if we zoom way in, we can see that this little outpost, it's sort of a military base. It's actually not that little if you kind of look at it. I wonder how long it would take to walk across. It's not huge, but maybe it's like the size of a college campus. And what's notable about this is that we can see, at least according, John and I talked about this earlier, it appears that those aircraft on the left, we can zoom in even further, appear to be AH-64 Apache combat helicopters. So those are clearly American aircraft there. And if we zoom back out, we can see how close it is to the Syrian border, but it is within Jordan. And across the border in Syria, if you zoom out again, Tamara, zoom out. There is, I don't know if we're necessarily going to see it, but there is the Al-Tanif US base, occupation base in Syria. I don't know if it shows on the Google map, but it's not far from there. Now, I just want to mention, I'm going to ask you a question about this, John, but all of this, the initial response from the Jordanian government when news of this attack broke was to try to deny that this took place in Jordan. And then they had to sort of dial back that statement when the United States government made clear that this was in Jordan. And then the Jordanians issued this bizarre statement where they said that the attack took place at an advanced position near the border, and that no Jordanians were injured in the attack. So they sort of finally had to acknowledge it was in Jordan. But why would they deny it? The reason is that the Jordanian government is very coy about what appears to be the major US military presence in Jordan, which is, of course, deeply, deeply, deeply unpopular because for all sorts of reasons, but in the current context, particularly because the United States is seen correctly as enabling and assisting the genocide of the Palestinian people. And just as a reminder, Tamara, if we zoom out and go to let's go to the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐜 airbase and just take a look. And this gives us a sense of the scale. Just hold it there for a second. Actually, zoom out just so people can see where this is in Jordan. So this is sort of, there's Amman, the capital, and then this is sort of to the east. It's sort of right in the middle of Jordan, but it's the east near Azra. And if we zoom back in now, this is a major Jordanian Air Force base that the Americans have essentially taken over. They've been operating in it for years, but this was further formalized in the January 2021 Defense Cooperation Agreement between the United States and Jordan. And that agreement, the text of which is public, basically gives the United States free rein for its forces to operate pretty much in any part of Jordan. And they do. And in 2018, Congress appropriated $140 million for the expansion and improvement of this airbase in Jordan for American use. And if we zoom in, Tamara, we can see some of the aircraft that at least were on the ground at the time this Google image was taken. And if we zoom way in, we can see what appear to be, from their silhouette, F-35 fighter jets, which are, again, advanced United States warplanes and not something that the Jordanian Air Force possesses. And then, Tamara, if you just click on the story that you and I wrote back in October, just to show people, at the beginning, this story is dated 29th of October, but just after October 7th, the United States rushed additional forces to Jordan, a couple of extra squadrons of fighter jets and Patriot missile batteries as part of their regional buildup essentially in defense of Israel. So this is just to provide some context about what's going on in Jordan. And it's something that's deeply, deeply unpopular with the people, and which the government doesn't like people to talk about very much because it's so unpopular. But that is that just provides some context for what happened. But John, just before we go out, what can you tell us about this attack? Who was behind it, the capabilities, and what it may portend? And of course, I'm talking about that attack that killed the 3 U.S. soldiers.
Yeah, so it sounds like it was a drone attack that the Americans had turned off their air defenses. That's what they're claiming, that they had turned off their air defenses because they believed that the drone was an American drone. And these air defenses are already complicated for the Americans for the exact reason that you just articulated, because there's a lot of American assets around, and they're ideally not going to down their own planes and their own drones using their own surface-to-air missiles in this kind of like friendly fire vicious circle that's happening. And so it appears that one got through, and I guess that's sort of what we've been waiting for, because there's been more than 180 attacks on American troops in Syria and Iraq by the Iraqi resistance. And so it was just a matter of time before one gets through. And then, of course, with the logic of empire, the second that happened, every single news reporter that asked Biden was what's Biden's response going to be? How many how many people is he going to kill? What kind of attack is it going to be? As if that there's the supposition that this must be responded to as if these aren't attacks that are targeting American assets that are protecting Israel's genocide, which is what's happening with the Houthis too. There's no, with Ansar Allah, there's no diplomatic solution. As Ansar Allah has articulately said, there's no diplomatic solution to the blockade that they're imposing on American and British warships. That the solution isn't diplomatic. It's to allow aid into the Gaza Strip to the people that we've been talking about, to Layla's family, to people that are suffering right now under this brutal Israeli attack. That's the solution. The Iraqi resistance a bit more complicated because the Americans are in Iraq, ostensibly under an agreement with the Iraqi government, which the Iraqi government is trying to annul and get them out. So the Iraqi resistance said yesterday that they were going to halt attacks pending the outcome of these discussions on a political level in their own country, and presumably the ceasefire talks that are happening. But this is just one of 180 attacks on American assets in the region that have no justification for being there. I mean, we could have a whole show about Jordan, right? Like I covered Jordan because Jordan was the Jordanian International Police Training Center, was the training center for Keith Dayton, the American security coordinator, whose job it was to train Palestinians to attack Hamas in the West Bank. And the reason that they had to train them in Jordan is because they were illegitimate in their own communities. So they couldn't train them in their own communities. They had to train them in Jordan. Of course, Jordan trained Iraqi security forces that were put into that insurgency, brutal casualty rates during that insurgency, trained in Jordan. So Jordan's been essentially a U.S. offshore base, and that's what we're seeing. And to target it by forces in the region would appear, I think, to most of the world, a perfectly legitimate target.
Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit like, leave a comment. These engagements help us with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps us to get around Silicon Valley censorship as much as possible. It does make a difference. You can also support our journalism by going to electronicintifada.net and clicking on donate now. Thank you.